Welcome to Unstuck with Hydro or Wellness Lab, the podcast where real people share the real stories behind getting their lives, their bodies, and their mindsets back on track. I'm your host, Bretton Hunt, and in every episode, we dive into powerful conversations with athletes, weekend warriors, health and wellness professionals, and everyday people who refuse to settle. These are the breakthroughs, the setbacks, the mindset shifts, the moments that get us unstuck. So today I am joined by one of my friends that I've gotten to know over the last couple of years, Kevin Kasper. He is a former NFL player, played in the NFL for 8 years with a number of teams. Iowa Hawkeye, holds some records at the combine, some Iowa records as well. Overall, he's a great person. He's helped me out with just health and wellness stuff, teaching me all the stuff, a lot of different things, gotten to know his family. I consider him family, and I'm really happy that he's agreed to join me on the podcast today. So, Kevin, thanks for being on. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. That was a good intro. You did a good job. Yeah.
Thanks. So, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Your journey to the NFL, your journey into football, all that is kind of is really a cool one because you didn't. I mean, you played all kinds of sports growing up, but you were more of a soccer player growing up, weren't you?
Yeah. All right. So growing up, pretty much the only sport I did not play was football. Grew up, soccer was probably my main sport. Played baseball. Funny thing, actually, my mom was my first soccer coach. So,
Okay.
and we were pretty good. We would go. I think I don't think, I know she was undefeated. She had a better record than Bill Belichick. We went undefeated for a season under her tutelage, and pretty much went in there and just try to score as many goals as possible. And she was pretty good coach. But my dad was actually my baseball coach, so played baseball my majority of my life. Literally did everything. Grew up wrestling. That was one of the best things. Wrestling was one of the best things I've done, just because it was just one-on-one, no excuses. Um, Tough, just a mentally and physically tough sport. So I think that got me used to losing. I hate striking out in baseball. There's funny stories. Learned a lot as a kid, but I'd get mad, get frustrated. You strike out, or if I hit a ground ball, I just kind of moped and be mad about it. My dad, plenty of times, said, "Nope, you're running." Even though if I knew I was out, I had to run to first base, and learn some lessons with that. But then also with wrestling, that was probably the biggest. Um, I guess mentally tough thing that I had to do as a kid, just even trying to lose weight as a youngster, and um, just being defeated and understand like it's okay now. It's time to get better. I wasn't really good at losing. I wasn't a fan of it. So when I did, it was one of those things I just had to live and learn from and try to get better. But yeah, so I did every sport under the sun except for football. So it wasn't till later. Let me see. It was I was in high school, or I was in eighth grade. I saw a couple of soccer games for a big high school I was going to be going into. And there was probably, I don't know, 20, 30 people in the stands, mostly family, friends, girlfriends, and whatnot,
Mhm.
other soccer players. Went to my brother's football game, 5,000 or whatever. The place is going crazy. And I was like, okay, this looks more fun. So that's actually why I started transitioning and into football, just going into high school. Like, all right, I'm gonna try this, and then from there is kind of where the story of my life had begun, with the trials and tribulations of playing sports and playing football, and that was pretty cool.
So in high school, you've mentioned to me for a long time, you thought, I'm going to go to Spain. I'm going to go to Europe somewhere. I'm going to go play professional soccer. That was the dream. And then in high school, like you just said, that's when you're like, man, more people here watch football. I want to go play that. When did it become the dream then to, I want to go play in the NFL, or I want to play professional football?
All right, so my entire life, I grew up watching all types of sports, and even professional wrestling. Loved the Hulk Hogan era, and so I can see myself like, I'm a professional wrestler or just something. So, but I was really good at soccer, so I thought, okay, if I'm going to play professional sport, I'm probably going to go to a different country, because there was a thing called Chicago Sting back in the day. They don't have it anymore, but that was professional soccer team. So I was able to watch them and whatnot. And I was like, all right, I think I'm gonna be a professional athlete. And this is coming from my father, who was a maxillofacial oral surgeon. And that's kind of what my older brother became an endodontist, younger brother general dentist, kind of the family that we were going into. But I just always saw myself as a professional athlete, one way or the other. It was going so freshman year, I decided, yeah, I'm going to go play football, and I went. And again, in big high school, unlike here, they had an A team and a B team, and then a sophomore team, and then a junior varsity and a varsity. So there's a lot of football, a lot of football
That's a
teams on
lot.
this. Yeah, there was. So I went and tried out for the football team, and I was a quarterback, and I was a quarterback just because I played a little. Again, it wasn't organized tackle football, but seventh, eighth grade for my school. A lot of kids went and played different club teams, just like it is now. Most of them played that, but I was playing quarterback for my grade school, and I decided that I'm going to go do that. And it was literally the first, yeah, I think it was like the first week or so. They already named the a starter is going to be a different, different kid on the A team. So I was like, shoot, all right, I'm just going to try to compete and whatnot. And long story short, all those kids, they divvied up between the A team and a B team. A lot of the kids that got put on the B team, they end up quitting,
Mhm.
and I was put on that B team, and I was the quarterback of the B team, and um, that was very frustrating. It was a kick in the face type of thing, and I was like, man, all my buddies I befriended were on the A team, and I got put down, like it's quitting, like I said, and so that was very humbling. And I figured, okay, I can either quit or it's one of those things. I mean, my grandfather used to say these words all the time: like quitters are dummies. It was just like a quote I kind of learned and lived by. It was a very simple quote, and it's very true. But I was like, yeah, all right, I'm not going to quit. And that's really, I was always a hard worker as a kid, came from my family. And um, when I got put on that B team, that was probably the most difficult thing, setback that I ever had. But then it also put a fire underneath me that I just worked harder than anybody possible, because my goal again was to get on that 18 and just outwork everybody. And I kind of learned from that situation that all right, it's time to work, and that's what I did as opposed to just quitting.
That's awesome, and that that makes sense now. Watching and learning more about your journey into the NFL and then your journey in the NFL. You're not a quitter, right? You worked hard, you grinded, and for everything that you did and accomplished. And I mean, you have a lot of things, a lot of cool stories that are a testament to that hard work. And had you, decided, let's just go back to soccer. Well, who knows? Maybe you would be the Cristiano Ronaldo over there in Spain. But,
Yeah.
it'd be a little bit different. But that's awesome. All right, so then you're on the B team. You obviously make it into junior varsity, eventually varsity. You know, you were a quarterback and you were running back for a little bit, right? And then eventually you transition into receiver, right? And that's where you kind of find your home as a receiver. So take me through those transitions. What eventually led you to be like, okay, I like receiver. This is where I'm going to stick. This is what I'm going to eventually become a professional at, is being a receiver.
Yeah, to me, this is the most interesting part of my, I guess, journey. So finished that year, did the B team thing, and my sophomore year, I I worked so darn hard, and just again didn't quit. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to be the starting quarterback. This is going to be it. So I go as a sophomore, and again, there's just a sophomore team. My goal was go be the starter, and the very first practice, I took a snap and it landed, it hit my thumb wrong on my right hand, which is my throwing hand, and I end up breaking my thumb. So it was hurting throughout practice, and I remember went to the doctor. They said it was broke, so they had to put a cast on it. It's hard to play quarterback with a cast. So that didn't work out very good. I thought my life was done. I'm like, okay, well now, I wanted to be a quarterback and now I can't. And what am I going to do? It was just a huge setback, just like they put out a B team. It was very frustrating. So that year, sophomore year, they moved me at running back. I was again worked super hard throughout that year, so I put on some strength and some speed and whatnot. So they said, "All right, we'll give you the opportunity to play running back." And I ended up becoming the starting running back, even with a cast throughout the whole year, which was good. I got to use my left hand quite a bit, so became a little bit ambidextrous, and that actually helped even catching the ball later. But yeah, so I became starting running back, and that was pretty cool. So from there, after sophomore season, going into varsity, there's a junior varsity team and a varsity team. My goal is to play varsity football. And at junior year, I was not the starter. There was a kid ahead of me, so I was a backup running back then. And towards the middle of the year, I became starting running back. I was also a kicker, and I did all that. Played safety, so I never really left the field. I was always on. I was always playing, but I became a starting running back about halfway through that season, my junior year on the varsity team. And I ended up getting kind of rolled up by one of our own friendly fire, one of our own players, and end up having a stress fracture in my fibia. So with that, the doctor said I'm able to play, but with limitations. Wasn't able to get tackled as much. And so basically they said, hey, we're going to put you outside. So we want you to play, but outside over there at receiver. Our quarterback did not throw the ball pretty much at all. And that was like the worst situation I ever like I don't want to play receiver. I never get the ball. This is gonna just suck. So I had a few catches my junior year, but not too much. So it was my senior year. I ended up learning the game a little bit more. Our quarterback was a baseball player that was ended up being pretty good. So I befriended him. So it was a good, good friend of mine. I'm like, all right, well let's see how this works. Is just throwing the ball. And so my senior year, I ended up being starting receiver over there, and end up setting the high school pretty much every record, like catches in the game, catches in the playoff game, most catches in the career. So it was one of those things again from being wanting to be starting a quarterback, have a huge setback, and an opportunity comes to be a running back. Get hurt, huge setback, and that ended up putting me at a position which I hated. That ended up becoming my livelihood and the reason why I'm here today. So yeah, so when it did that and finished playing receiver, and then kind of from there, that's when the whole trying to get a scholarship. That's when another setback came where we had 5 kids get D1 offers on our team, and coaches would come in and they wouldn't even entertain or look at they wouldn't even acknowledge me as a receiver. Back then, there weren't too many Caucasian receivers. There's very, very few. So really didn't they didn't take me serious or even look at me. They even not offered the opposite side receiver of me. And again, never looked at me. So that was very frustrating because I felt like I know my coach at the time felt like he knew I can play. I know I can outwork people and play, and if I give opportunity, that's all I needed. But that opportunity never came. There's a lot of colleges in this country, and I had 0 offers. So my father and I, we would get in a car and we drove to Butler, Valparaiso, Laura, Milliken, Eastern Illinois, all these schools that you probably never heard of. So these ones, they didn't even want me. The Eastern Illinois was the only one that kind of gave me some entertaining idea of me playing, but that was for me being a kicker. They didn't let kickers play receiver. So I was, again, being a good soccer player, I was able to kick. Um, going and just, we would drive 2 hours, 5 hours, whatever it may be, meet with the coaches, and then we get in the car, my head down, sad, drive back because they just weren't interested. So every single we did a lot of traveling, and my dad he's a very, very positive person. He's like, oh, it's gonna work out, it's gonna be okay. And I'm just like, this sucks, driving back every time.
Yeah.
And just being defeated. And good thing for my family, my dad, brothers, they believed in me, and they felt like, okay, this, and my mom, this, something's gonna work out. But at that point in my life, it was not working out.
So yeah, I can imagine that being pretty difficult, especially considering how I know you now, like you working hard and thinking like, man, if this guy's getting it, I'm just as good, or I'm better. Why am I not getting looked at? And then even going to places, it's not as easy as it is now, where you can just send a coach a huddle file, right? And say, hey, here's the huddle file for me, and this is where I'm at, and they can see all this, right? I mean, you had to literally go and show them, I don't know, tapes and like, hey, look,
Sure.
here I am, right? But so eventually, though, like you were saying, like your family believed in you. You know, hey, something's gonna work out. We don't know what it is, but something will work out. How did you end up getting to Iowa and, eventually starting with them?
Yeah. So every week or so during the season, college coaches would come in and there was zero interest for me. They'd always be looking at different people. And like you said, there were no huddle and there was no just press send and you get an email. It was literally get in a car and drive, especially when they weren't interested in you.
Mm,
We'd call them, they say, yeah, you can come check us out. We go down to these places and there just wasn't some. I remember coaches didn't even know I was coming, even though we said we were coming. And it's just like, geez. And they would be talking to somebody else and they never really care about me. So when these other schools would come in, University of Iowa, a coach named Chuck Long. He played University of Iowa, starting quarterback there. Played multiple years, dozen plus years in the NFL with the Lions and I think some other teams. But so he came. He was looking at another lineman, the opposite side receiver. He was doing some things, and he ended up talking to. He came down to our weight room and was watching me work out and said he said something to the coach, our head coach, and said, who is that kid? And my coach at the time, Jim Kerwin, he really believed in me. He played at University of Illinois. He played defensive back there, and he really believed in me, kind of like how my father did. And he would tell other schools like, "Hey, give this kid opportunity, man. He's going to outwork anybody, and he's a player." And he talked to that Chuck Long, and Chuck Long ended up coming to talk to me in the basements, and this became a cool in the basement of our high school. This became a cool story later in life that I'll get back to. And he said, "Hey, I got a question for you. If Jim Kerwin, the coach, he's like, your coach really believes in you and he thinks you're a Big Ten player. And I didn't know who you were, but I mean, is this something that if we ever, let's say, offered you a walk-on spot, would you even consider coming to University of Iowa?" At that time, I didn't even know what University of Iowa was. There wasn't like you just turn on the Big Ten Network or ESPN. And I was a Notre Dame fan. You just watched the Bears, the closer schools, Notre Dame, White Sox,
mhm.
hated the Cubs, the Bulls, it's just everything that was in the area. So University of Iowa, the Tiger Hawk, had no idea what that was. But he said we're in Big Ten, and would you even entertain the possibility of coming to walk on? And I said, Coach, if you let me walk on there, I promise you I'll become the all-time leading receiver at there, just like I did here. Later, that story became true and sent me an email. That's cool. So remind me to tell that story.
Yeah.
But I did tell Chuck Long that. He said, okay, well, we'll think about it and talk to you more and see if maybe have you come out to the school and check it out. And so later, my dad and mom and I, we drove to University of Iowa. We got to an opportunity to see and everything. It wasn't I never went on I went to one official visit to Eastern Illinois, but I never had any other official visits, including the University of Iowa. But there were, again, that was really the only opportunity that a guy kind of believed in me because my high school coach believed in me. So that's where the whole University of Iowa came in. Um, Cool thing is they offered me a regular walk-on spot. So at that time, there was about 110 players on a team. 85 people would come in prior to, it would be 85 scholarship players, and then about maybe 10 to 15 more regular or preferred walk-ons would come in for training camp. I was not a preferred walk-on. I wasn't a scholarship kid. So I was just a regular walk-on. So I was going to come in after training camp. And so I was preparing myself. So let's just say I had about a month away before I was going to get ready to go. And I got a phone call and it was from Chuck Long. And he said, "Hey, we actually have there's 110 spot." One of the guys ended up leaving. He was going to go to dental school, which is kind of funny. So he's not going to be a preferred walk-on. Would you be interested? You just have to come about 3 weeks early with the preferred walk-ons. And if you know me, I'm prepared way in advance.
Yeah.
And I already started packing, and again, 3 weeks away, um, for when I was officially going to go to the University of Iowa. And I said, Coach, I'm ready. Yeah, yeah, I'll go. I'll be preferred walk on. So that's how that came. So I was going to be a regular walk on, became a preferred walk on, went there with the scholarship players. And that was, I mean, that's where my whole University of Iowa journey began. And um, that's what I was pretty cool.
That's way cool. That's awesome. Yeah, that's such a cool story of just like continue to, again, that's just another time where you could have just said, well, yeah, I'm the all-time leader here. It's not going to work out. And then just, you could have been the guy going to dental school, right? And being some type of dentist up there in Illinois still or something like your life could have changed it could have gone very different had you decided not to just keep working, keep pushing. And so that's way cool. And so now you're at the University of Iowa, right? You preferred walk on, you make the team. What was that like? What was it like? I mean, like you said, it wasn't the Big Ten network or anything, but Big Ten, it's a big time school, right? That's a big accomplishment. What was that feeling like when you walk in there and you're like, man, I made the team. You see the locker room, you got your jersey, you got the name on the back and everything, the Big Ten logo. What was that feeling like?
It was a different feeling than the guys that were on scholarships. Let's put it that way, because when I didn't have my own locker, I had to share a locker with other walk-ons, and it was again very humbling experience. So when I got there, I got to meet some of my best friends on day one, which was kind of crazy. Just because, so I met these guys, are scholarship guys, and befriended all these guys, and would work just as hard, or to me harder than anybody. But we go every day. You wake up early, you train hard, you go to practice, you do you have meeting after meetings, and these were long days, and then going to school. And some of the hardest parts of my days is after you're done with everything, you go to dinner. And it was always the worst part, because we would go as a team and get dressed at the practice. You go to dinner, and all my buddies would walk to the left of the line. So you go in this place where all these other students are there. So when you go into the left, that's where all the scholarship football players ate. The food was better. The scenery is better. I mean, the seats, like literally everything was better over there. But the walk-ons ate with the regular students. So all my brothers, all my guys that I did everything with, they were, we'd walk in, they go to the left and enjoy, the good dinners. And I would have to go with the walk-ons and the regular student, and go sit there. And I ate pissed off every single day. And it kind of just like when I got moved to the B team, just like when I got moved to receiver, it was very frustrating, but it made me physically and mentally tougher in the long run. And it was a blessing in disguise, with all these things kind of leading up to, where the future became. But it got to a point too where I ended up not going to dinner. Most of the times I would, at football, for the scholarship guys, we would take, like, different food and whatnot. And I would go sneak in in the room and take protein shakes and protein bars, and all these like bags of nuts and all sort of stuff. And that's where I would take that, put in my bag, and I would actually go home to my dorm and just eat there, just because I didn't want to walk up to, I didn't want to walk up to the line and leave all my guys and then go the other way. Some of my buddies used to say, like, "Hey, just use my name." And so I'd go, "Yeah, my name is Bashir." My buddy Bashir, one of my roommates, or good friends, Tarig. So I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm Tarig." So like I would just name different names. They'd check me off, and so once in a while I got to eat with the scholarship players until I got caught. So then again I would just go back home and eat. But yeah, so that was frustrating. So I didn't have like the glitz and glamour of the Big Ten, and my own locker. And matter of fact, I didn't get the same equipment as they did. So it was very frustrating. And Same thing I did when I was in high school, when I was in grade school, wrestling and all stuff what my mom and dad taught me. Just keep, and my grandfather, just keep working, and that's what I did. And so it was going into my second year after spring ball that I got called into the office, was offered a full ride scholarship, and that was one of the best few minutes of my life, just being offered that. I remember I was just, man, I was so pumped up, excited. First one I called my parents and told them, and that was just a lot of hard work. Finally, I kind of got rewarded. It was the first time ever feeling like wanted from by somebody.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. That weren't wanted and believed that weren't my family members. Let's put it that way, because my family always did, but not really anybody else. So that was huge for me.
That's awesome. That's way cool. I love that story. So now and I was a athlete in high school, but not like in college. So what was it like being an athlete in college, but also a student at college? Like you still, it wasn't the NFL yet where you could just, go to practice, go home and that was it, right? It was, well, you gotta go to practice, you gotta lift, you gotta do all this. Oh, and you gotta go to class and you gotta do your homework and you gotta study for your exams. What was it like being a student athlete in college?
It was really difficult, and that's one of the things to this day when you hear fans or whatever, they say, "Oh, this is garbage. Why are they paying these athletes? They get free education," and they're clueless unless you've done it. I mean, these kids would be out on the normal students Monday night, tequila night, Tuesday taco, Wednesday vodka, I mean, but it was always like a night fun party, sleep in, get your homework done, do whatever you got to do. And we were up literally like thinking winter conditioning. And you had to be out the door at like 5:15 in the morning, and snowing, freezing, heading over there. You're working your butt off in the off season. Come back later for more workouts, more film. The actual season is just, I mean, you are you're an employee. That's all we did. And somehow within all that time and recovering from an injury, um, trying to rehab, prehab, stay in shape, eat healthy, do the right things, get enough sleep. And then you have a paper due, and then you have a study for a test. And it was not easy. It wasn't fun. So having to try to prioritize your time and, just try to figure out, okay, how am I going to get this done? And then look for help. I mean,
Yeah.
what always doing that as far as talking to tutors and whatnot. They, football does a good job in getting you tutors, but still, you still had to go and meet with the tutors and learn, and so it was very difficult to prioritize your time. I felt like sometimes instead of 24 hours in a day, I'm like, okay, we need about 57 hours in a day to get all the stuff that we need to get done. And I was one that always wanted to do extra working out. So whether it's stretching or going to chiropractic, massage, whatever it is, just try to do something extra that other people aren't doing just to get the edge on them. And then again, still having to do the regular school thing. So, man, being a full-time employee and then again, trying to, do school was not easy.
What'd you get your degree in?
Marketing. Yeah. And I was an academic all Big Ten. I love saying that. And for 3 years, I was academic all Big Ten. So that was I took pride in that.
Yeah.
Every year they would announce it, um, with other accolades, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. Because I was all Big Ten for football too later in my last 2 years, but the fact that I did it academic wise also was a pretty gratifying.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Congrats on that. All right, so we're gonna come back to that story of Chuck Long when you told him in the basement, "Hey, I'm gonna be the leading receiver in Iowa." I did it here, and I'm gonna do it there too. So take me through that season when you did end up becoming the leading receiver in Iowa history.
Yeah. So so after I got my scholarship, then I started to get some opportunities. We had a loaded wide receiver group. It's a Big Ten, so there's a lot of great receivers. And going into my it was my sophomore year, I played my sophomore year, my redshirt year, and then my freshman year, I had just one catch against the Iowa State Cyclones. We played them, had one catch in that entire year. My second year, I had 14 catches as a sophomore. My junior year, kind of things happened for a reason. There were two kids that were really good, and they ended up quitting the team, and which I was kind of surprised. And then another one ended up kind of getting suspended for a full year. So it really gave me an opportunity to become kind of the man, the starting receiver. So that was my junior year. Had a lot of opportunities and end up having 64 catches, um, and had a productive, fun year. And my senior year, that's when um, became voted as the captain of the team, which was what was a huge honor for me prior to the season. And that's throughout the season. I had 82 catches that year, which led the Big Ten. But it was after the Northwestern game, actually, that became the all-time leading receiver. And that's when okay, so Chuck Long, he was at that point, he was the head coach at University of Oklahoma.
Mhm.
So he had left. And then so he actually, after that game, he wrote an email to me and said, "Hey, do you remember when we were in the basement at University of Iowa and I said, asked you about that, and you said you're gonna be," he's like, "It became true. How cool of a story is that?" And so that was really awesome. One, that he remembered. Two, that he was the head coach of Oklahoma, so that he even knew what was going on. And three, it was really cool because I did a podcast with him a few years ago, and we talked about that situation. Yeah, so he was a mentor of mine, great guy, and he's the one that really gave me an opportunity, and I ran with it. And so it was then when he when he sent that email to me, and that was really cool. But so my senior year, I end up with 82 catches, and that was it still is 2000, so 26 years ago. It's still the most catches in a season. Against Ohio State, I had 13 catches, and that's still tied for the most catches in a game. And I was all-time leading receiver, but that's been broken since then. I did that basically in 2 years. Got 114, and then basically 2 years where I had
Yeah.
a lot of catches. But the other guys play because you're able to play basically 5 seasons as opposed to what I got to play. So quite a bit more games. It's not making an excuse, but it's the
Yeah.
kind of facts. But still, for the most catches per game I played, I still am number one in that. Um, but yeah, so it was a lot of trials and tribulations, ups and downs, and going from having my, sharing a locker and not even getting uh, cleats like everybody else did, and they'd hand out supplements and creatine, and then they'd hand out. My turn. You walk by, hand the next guy, and going to the left of the line, and then me going to the right even with regular students. So with all those things, um, I just stuck with it, persevered, and if anything, just drove me to work harder and just try to make my family proud, try to make myself proud actually too, and the coaches that believed in me, and so all things led to becoming the lead receiver, and took a lot of pride in that.
Yeah, I can't imagine being, that it's you saying that and then actually doing that. Like that's a huge thing because, and this isn't to put a slight on anybody out there that's an athlete or anyone that said that, but that's hard to do, right? I mean, you can say that and you can, but heaven forbid, injuries happen or life just happens. Like sometimes, like you have every good intention to do that, and it doesn't happen, right? But the fact that you went out and did it amongst all that adversity that you faced at the beginning, that's way cool. And that's that's super awesome. And it doesn't end there, right? I mean, so you're a stud at Iowa. I mean, I've seen Iowa fans and I've talked to Iowa fans who are diehards. And I'll mention, do you remember Kevin Kasper? Oh yeah, I know Kevin. Yeah, it's like you're an Iowa Hawkeye, like legend for those, hardcore Iowa fans, right? They know who you are. And so now it's time to get ready for the draft, right? So take me through that whole process of, the draft combine. getting the phone call from the Denver Broncos that they're taking you, and that whole experience, because that was a whole nother experience for you, getting drafted and all that.
Yeah, that's a whole nother chapter. I feel like each chapter can have a podcast on its own. As far as Hawkeye fans, they're nuts. They're awesome. When I go back, and it's not even bragging about myself, it's about bragging about the fans, how much they love Iowa Hawkeyes.
Yes.
If you were a player there or a captain or I mean really anybody, but the better player you were, they they kind of put you on a pedestal and they they love you. And so when I go back there and sees that yeah, oh yeah, I loved watching you play. You were my favorite receiver, or whatever. So that's there's not much to do in Iowa. So and there's no NBA, NFL. There's no nothing. It's the Iowa Hawkeyes, and that's their religion.
Right.
And I love it. So all right. So from University of Iowa, that's when I got invited to two All-Star games. So I went to Hawaii for the Hula Bowl, and I went to the blue and gray All-Star game, and that was in Alabama, and that was on Christmas Day. So finished the season, went and did that, had very productive games. A guy named Drew Brees was my quarterback.
Nice.
Yeah, at the won the All-Star game. So got to know him, and he threw me the ball, and that was a lot of fun. But I had real productive games, and talked to, signed with an agent and talked to a lot of different scouts and everything. And again, back then, the big thing was there was probably, I can count on one hand how many white Caucasian receivers there were. There's a lot more now. But back then there weren't many. So for me, I was always labeled possession receiver, hard worker and deceptively fast. And I can catch everything. And so that's kind of what I was labeled, but that label kind of, it did hurt me as far as getting drafted. And I went to the NFL Combine, so I went to the All-Star games, did that. Went to New Jersey and trained with some of the best. I learned a lot. I had some of the best strength coaches from University of Iowa, Chris Doyle, and then Joe DeFranco, Martin Rooney, Bill Creed. Like these guys I got to train with were some of the best and still are to this day. So I went to New Jersey. I trained for about 6 weeks, and it was just a grind. I just trained, and some of the guys would go to New York and go like hang out and go have fun and go check out. I was not, I was there for straight business. And I still talk to the guys that trained me back then, and they tell me like, you were probably the most elite athlete and focused athlete that I've ever, dealt with. And because I just listened and learned, and I just, again, just focused. And they prepared me for the NFL Combine, and I went to the Combine, and I my goal was to go dominate. And because I did so many drills prior to there, I broke so many records that didn't count because it was just, at the facilities that I was trained at. But my guys were like, dude, you're going to go break records. And I said, no, I know. And I told a number of the people the day before I did all those competition drills. I would tell some of the scouts I'm talking to coaches, and I said, there's like, well, what are you going to run? And I'll say, well, I'll probably break like 2 or 3 records. I would tell them which ones, and then I'll probably run a low 4.4s, and most of them kind of didn't believe me, especially when I was saying breaking records. And but I still hold a couple of records today, so I guess I was telling a little bit of the truth. But yeah, so I went the next day. I broke the 60-yard shuttle. I broke the pro agility 20-yard shuttle. I broke the 3-cone drill, and for about 10 minutes, I had the highest vertical jump. Guy named Chris Chambers jumped, and I went from a 43.5 that was tied, and then dude jumped to 45 right after me. But I went in and then ran a 4.42 electronic and a 40-yard dash. But I loved it. Some of the people I was there with kind of froze up and different, and because it's very nerve wracking. And the day before you're up there, they take your shirt off. You're like a bunch of cattle. And you're on a stage, and literally you have general managers, coaches, everybody just looking at you, staring at you, writing information as you're like out there with your shirt off and putting your arms aside and doing like twirls to see they're looking at. It was very interesting, but I was prepared. I was mentally prepared, physically prepared, and I felt like I had nothing to lose. So I was on the go and just try to do everything I can. And I remember the night before, just I'm a very visual person, so I was envisioned just every step I was going to take and how I was going to break the records. And I was in the hallway of the hotel and kind of going through my steps and going through what I was taught. And so by the time that it actually came to do the stuff, I was so prepared. I've already done that a zillion times and broke the record a million times in my head. So I was good to go. But yeah, so I did that NFL Combine, broke records, broke records in college. I felt like everything I could have done, I did. And from there, it was just, all right, now the next thing is just the draft. A lot of people had draft parties, and I was at Iowa, and people had draft parties, and I didn't do any of that stuff. I went back to my house with my parents, and there was one guy from University of Iowa that came and did like some media stuff there, and the night before, Mel Kiper, who's still like the guru for draft, he had me going the second round, number 56, to the Denver Broncos. So he was at least right on the team. But number two, number 56, Denver Broncos is what he projected me. And the first round went by. Obviously not picked. Second round went by. I picked from the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth round is interesting because it said Mel Kiper's best available. My name was number one for it was back then it was 3 days of the draft, and my name just sat. No, it was 2 days. 1, 2, and 3, and then 4, 5, and 6. And 7. But my name sat the number one best available. People would call and say, "Hey, I see your name." I'm like, oh my God, stop. I didn't want, unless somebody was calling me from a team.
Yeah.
I didn't want to talk to anybody. And I ended up getting so frustrated that I had 7 guys drafted ahead of me for receivers, and I'm outside just like shooting hoops, playing basketball. Just stopped watching the draft because I was just so frustrated. And my agent saying it's going to come. They're gonna come get you. And it was all the way at the 190th pick was coming up. I was drafted 192, but um or I think, yeah, I was drafted, 192. But I got a phone call around the 190th pick from the Buffalo Bills, and they called and said, "Hey, we have the 190 something, fifth, sixth something pick. We're going to be drafting you." So I was like, "Yes, okay, I'm going to be drafted." I was so excited, and I get off the phone with the Bills, and immediately I got a phone call from the Denver Broncos, and I answer the phone. I ran outside, and I literally hear people, my parents, and like, they're clapping, screaming. And so I never got to see myself actually get drafted. Because so while I was on the phone, I waited 2 days waiting for to see myself. Okay, where am I going to get drafted at, or am I going to get drafted? Am I going to be a free agent? And I was outside on the phone while I got drafted, and there, I remember Mike Shanahan, which was the coach at that time, which is Kyle Shanahan's father, and they're talking to me and, "Are you ready?" I'm like, "Thank you so much for the opportunity. You're not going to regret it. I'm so excited," and whatever. And as soon as I got the phone, I already asked my brother while I was on the phone. I asked my brother, I said, "Go print out." You couldn't go on the phone and get all stuff, but he went on and printed out all the receivers I had to go compete against with the Broncos and the defensive backs. And he came and printed out, gave it to me. And I literally went within 30 minutes after I went in the basement, I was working out. It wasn't like a celebratory thing. It was me being pissed off that I just was drafted the 6th round. I was excited, obviously, for an opportunity, because that's all I really want, an opportunity, just like I did in Iowa, just like at high school. I just want an opportunity, and they gave me the opportunity. So I left the following day, went to Denver, and, so yeah, so that was, I guess, the end of my college career and how I got to Denver Broncos and how I got drafted there. And it was just, again, ups and downs and crazy, crazy timing. Yeah. So
That's awesome. You told me the draft story, and I forgot that about the Buffalo Bills calling you and
Yeah.
you not seeing yourself drafted. Too bad they didn't have the rewind button back in
I
the day.
seen it now. Yeah, yeah, because
Yeah,
it was video recorded and all that stuff.
yeah, but the live thing, like that's too
Never
that's
saw it.
but that's awesome. So you get drafted to Denver, right? You're in Denver for a couple of years, right? And then you kind of start, I think you can correct me on the teams you went, like the Cardinals, the Patriots, the Browns, the Seahawks. Were the Dolphins in there as well? I don't remember. Not the
Played
Dolphins.
against them.
Play yes, yeah. But so you're on all these different teams, right? And you're learning all these different things. And the first time I met you and Bryce, so my business partner, and he was telling me, yeah, this guy, played in the NFL. And I was like, oh, cool. Who'd you play for? And you start naming them off, and you say the Patriots, and I said, oh, cool. What year did you play with the Patriots? I was there in 2003. I said, so you won a Super Bowl, right? And it was like, yeah, I did. You played with Tom Brady, you played with Bill Belichick, all that. Like, so and take me through, you know, because that the Patriots weren't the first team you were with. You were with the Broncos, right? So take me through, you're with the Broncos, and then you're with the Cardinals, I think, after the Broncos, right? And then it was the Patriots, I believe, I think. So take me through all that, like where you're in the NFL, obviously. You're busting your butt as hard as you can, right? And you're here, then you're over here. What was that like, first of all, like going from Denver and Arizona and all that, but then ultimately landing in New England for a couple of years and then getting to the top of the mountain with the Patriots?
Yeah, this is another long chapter, and I can sit here and talk for hours on all the different stories, but this is the chapter where my wife now, at the time, girlfriend at University of Iowa, um, she became a huge part of growing into man and going into the NFL
Hmm.
and then, kids started to come along in the
Yeah.
NFL and I mean, just the crazy amounts of stories. But so I got drafted to the Denver Broncos, like we talked about. I went to Denver, and my wife, girlfriend time, she still had another year at the University of Iowa. So I was there. I was just there with a roommate solo in Denver, and being a 6th round draft pick, I got there and it kind of felt times like a walk on because just because you are there's 15. I remember we're in the receiver room, not too much bigger than this room right here. Man, the coach Carl Durrell, he put his hands up and it was a five, and he said, "Keeping five. There's 15 of us." So I'm looking, okay. You have Ed McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey's father. He was one of the reasons why, and my brother wore 87 in high school. I loved Ed McCaffrey. Again, one of the 3 or 4 white receivers.
Yeah.
And so I learned everything so much from him. But so I knew he was making the team. Rod Smith, one of the all-time great receivers in the history of the game, let alone just our Denver Broncos. He was going to be making the team. Rob Moore, another guy, 14-year player, and all these guys that were there playing last year and played other places. So I'm like, geez, it's gonna be difficult. I'm a 6th round draft pick, and the 1st round guys, they were kind of, they're going to be on the team. 2nd round, same thing. And I knew it was going to be a difficult run. And so, long story short, is every single day, I mean, throughout going into training camp, I remember me and my roommate, I mean, yeah, you get knocked, people get knocked on the door at 4 in the morning before practice started or in the middle of the night, whatever. And we would go to practice, and then so and so's gone. Then this guy's gone. And one of those knocks came, it was you
Hmm.
know, it's 3, 4 in the morning, and I went and answered the door, and I'm just like, "Hello?" And they're like, and they said my roommate's name. First thing I thought was, "Oh God, thank God." And I didn't know if they were coming to get me. So they got him, grab your stuff, playbook, boom,
Hmm.
he's gone. And that's the NFL. It was a cutthroat business like no other. And it was, I remember I talked to my wife, like, I mean, girlfriend, Lisa, like almost every day, just to try to get my mind off stuff, and then talking to my parents. And it was very tasking again, because you don't know. You get
Yeah.
drafted, you're like the pinnacle, and it's like everything's great. And you're going from the top of the mountain at the Big Ten, and all of a sudden you're on the bottom of the totem pole again.
Yeah.
And you're like a nobody. And it ended up being the last day of cuts. I remember I went there. I had a really good training camp, and it was fun. I enjoyed. People hated training camp. I loved it. I loved it because I knew how miserable other people were. It was almost like, I saw blood in the water, and people came in and they were tired and dying, and that made me more excited. Kind of like when I worked out with you.
Yeah.
Like, you're dying and making funny noises and stuff, and that's something that it just kind of drives me to even go a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's just kind of what was built in. So that experience where these guys would come in and just complain, and I used to complain with them, and it was like a reverse psychology. Yeah, I feel terrible. This sucks, and I would say that stuff just because I knew I wanted to kind of get in their head and say how bad it really was, even though I loved it. So every year training camp was a grind. I did 8 training camps. They're brutal, but I enjoyed that grind. And I think that's what helped me that first year just make the team. I mean, people are getting hurt, people are getting cut left and right. It was just nonstop. And that final day came, and they said, you made the 53-man roster. And you literally, the way you find out, you walk in, and if you can get through the front door, it most likely means you're on the team. And if you get out of your car and you start walking, and someone says, come see me, come playbook. And I remember I was walking right by him, and I'm trying not to give him eye contact. And they called him the Grim Reaper, because they're taking you to your death, and they bring you upstairs, they take your playbook, and feel like your life's over. And I've been through that. But my rookie year, I made the team, so that was pretty cool. I remember calling my wife, family, and I'm like, I made the team. It was just awesome.
Yeah.
Then yeah, the kickoff returns, and just it was the Broncos. It was such a cool experience. And back being a rookie, I enjoyed like the limelight of it. It was fun. I had the #1 selling jersey, even over
Nice.
Cassidy. The new everybody already had McCaffrey's jersey, so the new jersey was mine. So kind of became like a fan favorite to people. I was doing kick returns, and I get the crowd hyped and jumping. And what a cool little trivia thing is, the Denver Broncos stadium, which now they're building a new one, but back in 2001, they built a new stadium. So I was the first one to ever catch a ball in that football stadium. So playing the New York Giants on September 10th, which was the first Monday Night Football game of the year, I caught the opening kickoff return. And so I was the first one in that stadium to ever catch a ball, which I thought was cool. Weird story is, we played September 10th against the New York Giants. My family was up visiting Colorado. September 11th, we woke up to the tragedies.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, September 11th tragedies. And that was, man, that was nuts. My family was stuck there. First of all, everything got shut down. They ended up having to rent a car, which was not easy to get rent a car, but it was doing that. They canceled that. We're playing the Indianapolis Colts, paid a man and his crew. They canceled that week and then came back the following week. We played them later down the road. But yeah, that was what a surreal time to be involved with the NFL or with anybody at that time. But yeah, so I went into that. I loved I loved my rookie year. It was fun. This was prior to kids. My wife would come down from Iowa. She came almost almost every home game, and maybe every home game. And most of she tried to come to the away games, and that was really cool. My second year going in, that was all of a sudden they drafted more receivers, and I'm like, man, how am I, now I got to make this team again, because again, no matter what you did prior to year, I mean, I was up for like during the year Pro Bowl for special teams. I played all of the special teams. I won some player of the games for special teams, including that New York Giants first game. It was really cool. I got a Waterford Crystal, still have it. Football, that, it was like a big, heavy little trophy thing, player of the game. it was really kind of neat thing. But that second year, I was returning a kick and I got hit in the shoulder, man. My shoulder felt like it was gonna fall off and end up it was a torn or AC, completely separated AC joint in the preseason. And I got shot up and took Toradol and bike. I took everything you possibly think to play through the entire year. And that's when my wife was with me. So she came up. We actually got we went during one of our bye weeks. We went up to Estes Park. The most nervous I've ever been, probably in my life. Not doing kick returns or doing anything. It's when I decided that I was gonna um, ask her to marry me. We went up. We climbed this little mountain in Estes Park, Colorado. And I remember I set up the camera and then we took some pictures. And I said, okay, well, let's do one more. And then I chickened out. Let's do one more. And then she's like, why are you shaking? And I was like, well, it's cold. She knows well, it's cold. It wasn't very cold, but I was like shaking and I'm like, well, hold on, I want to take one more picture. She's like, we already took a million pictures. I'm like, well, this time I want you to be wearing something. So I gave her a ring and it got down to my knee and man, that was nerve wracking at the time. But so that's my best memories of Colorado, her being there, getting engaged, doing all that, and her being around. And man, she's been through even more than I have throughout the NFL because so we were in Denver and I ended up, it was going in, let me see, it was week 8 when I got a phone call and I came in and again, I had a shoulder. Every week I'm getting shot up. I'm taking Toradol. My wife had to drive because I couldn't drive. I had to drive my left hand. I would take so many shots in my arm and go play kickoff return. So I mean, I go from not being able to move my arm to being perfectly fine because I'm shot up and I'm feeling great. And about an hour or two after the game, some of the worst pain I've ever been in my entire life. It was just beyond awful. And so I played through that. Week 8 was a bye week, and the Denver Broncos ended up calling me in the office and saying, "Hey, we're going to release you. Um, we're actually our kicker got hurt, so they end up having to bring somebody else in, a punter, and they're like, we might sign you back. We don't know, but I have a feeling you're not going to last through waiver wires. They put you on waiver wires for 24 hours. Teams can kind of pick you up. And this is another chapter I can go on. I'll make it quick with this point, but I got it was a Tuesday and they can pick you up on Tuesday. And I got a phone call with from my agent and said the Seattle Seahawks are going to sign you. I I said, all right, when do I gotta leave? And they're like, today, 4 o'clock. My wife and I are in Denver. We have a 2-bedroom apartment and a cat and our car. I had to go get in a plane literally 3 hours after knowing this, going from Denver to Seattle. And my wife was stuck there. She ended up driving 20 plus hours with my mom and a cat to Seattle after cleaning up the apartment and doing stuff. But I'm in Seattle and I it wasn't the best geography, but I remember I'm in a plane. I'm looking at this. I took the map out to see where Seattle was. I'm looking all the way to the right where Washington, or with New York. I thought I was going there.
Yeah.
And I asked the lady next to me, I said, where is Seattle? And she moved all the way over here. Yeah, I did not know. Apparently I missed the geography class. I will, but so again, I get in the plane. I'm in Seattle and 5 weeks later, another crazy thing, I get released by Seattle, but they said, hey, we already paid you for the week. They released me on a Friday, which is unheard of because they're like, we already talked to your agent. We're deciding you back. We're just doing this for one game. And because you have to usually get released on a Monday, so you get picked up on Tuesday, so I have to pay you. And I got picked up on a Saturday. I got a phone call. I had 9 teams put a bid in, and you go to the worst team at that time. It was the Arizona Cardinals. And I got to Arizona on a Saturday night. It was about almost 10 p.m. And I landed in Arizona. We're playing against the Raiders on a Sunday. I get there and they picked me up. I had to go straight to the ER, emergency room, to make sure that they had to do past the physicals and stuff.
Yeah.
And the doctor was already gone for the day or for the night. And he wasn't going to be back the following day. So I actually went to the emergency room. I remember someone got stabbed, came in downtown Phoenix. I was like, what's going on? And passed my stuff, my physicals, went back. It was probably, again, around 11 o'clock at night. I sat down with the special teams coach. I'm starving. My buddy, one of my best friends, who's still one of my best friends to this day, coaching at Michigan State now from Iowa, LeVar Woods. I remember he came in, he brought me a sandwich because I was starving, and he so, kind of introduced me to some people, met with a special team coach and said, all right, well, we'd be ready to play tomorrow, which is almost tonight or the same day
Yeah.
because it was almost midnight. And I was like, yeah, of course. So I woke up. Again, this is the year after 9/11. LeVar picked me up. We're in a hotel at the Buttes
Oh, okay.
here. So we're at the hotel. This is a crazy story. We go to the Cardinals facility. I'm walking in with LeVar, and I had, if you Google, I got the super white, bright blonde hair, almost white hair, puka shells necklace. It's kind of, I had my kind of look and kind of stuck with that. And, walking the stadium and they wanted my ID and stuff. I'm like, well, I'm a football player. And the guy said, who's still there now, the guy said, yeah, okay, you're not a football player. And LeVar said, no, he is. We just signed him yesterday. He's like, yeah, okay, you look more like a surfer than a football player. You're not a football player. I'm like, I just got signed here. They did not let me in. LeVar had to go inside, talk to somebody. They came back out and said, no, he is a football player. We just signed him. And the guy apologized and it became a funny story. But that day, I introduced myself to people in the locker room. I literally I did 8. I think it's still tied for record or something because we got our head absolutely beat in by Jerry Rice and Sebastian Janikowski was kicking, but it is the Raiders. But Sebastian Janikowski kicked me 8 kickoff returns. I had 2 for over 60. He tackled me both times, but I played about 40 plus plays and did not know anybody on the team. Well, I know 2 people, but that was it. And I remember a funny story because me, Joe Green, I went running by him, and later he said, who the hell is that guy? And that was a quote that came because I didn't meet any of the coaches or anything. And I was just literally introducing myself to the players at that time. So that was kind of the NFL. Everybody sees the glitz and glamour and jewelry and watch and like all this fun stuff. And I'm being released, flying to a state I had no idea where the heck I was even at.
Yeah.
Then not getting, letting be in the facilities and not to the stadium at that time. It was in Tempe. And then next thing you know, I'm out back there doing kickoff returns and playing punts and all that other stuff. And it was just such a crazy time. And so I played the rest of the year there with Jake the Snake Plummer. That was fun. He threw me my first 3 touchdowns, which was really cool, and had about, I think, 15 catches in the last 5 games. And yeah, so that was awesome. So then that's when signed back with the Cardinals, was there another year. My son, who's now BYU, my son was born in Arizona. And my wife and I established our family in Arizona. And so spent the next couple and a half years in Arizona at that point.
That's awesome. That's crazy. I didn't realize Kyler was born here. He was up in Seattle. That's really cool. And then so after the Cardinals, that's when the Patriots call, right? And
Yeah.
so this is my curiosity just from hearing stories of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Would you say, you don't have to tell any crazy stories, but are those stories accurate? Is Bill Belichick really like as hard as as he portrays himself to be, or is he really like kind of like a nice guy behind closed doors, and is Tom Brady as crazy as they say he is? And then you knew Tom when he was younger, right? And so I don't know if he was always that way or if that came as he aged, but what would you say just real quick about Bill and Tom Brady?
Yeah, they're all true. The way I got there, or the way I got there, is um in my last year with the Cardinals, Dennis Green came in, and I ended up making the team for literally one practice. When Dennis Green came in, and got released. They signed the general manager's younger brother and released me. Dennis Green said, "Hey, you did everything you can." I had my best preseason I've ever had. Had some touchdowns and did awesome. But we drafted Anquan Boldin, Ryan Johnson, Larry Fitzgerald. We had a lot of people still made the team, and then again for one practice. and I got released. Dennis Green and the Cardinals of that year, they finished 2-14. When I got put as a free agent, I got a phone call from the Patriots. I flew to the Patriots and I had a tryout. There was four other receivers, five of us, and did a tryout for them and did really good. Ran a 40-yard dash, all this stuff, and ended up signing with them. And that's yeah, I got to know Bill Belichick, and he was probably the funniest coach I had for sure.
Really?
Everybody, even I, I thought he was kind of um, different, and he was hilarious. Like he was definitely players coach, and he called me, unlike it when Dennis Green called me office, other people called me office to release me. I went up to the office a few different times, and he literally one time he said, they said, Bill wants to talk to you after I was getting released. I went up there. He said, how's everything going with you? How you feeling? How's the transition going? So him and Kirk Ferentz were very close friends. They were like, I think in each other's wedding, they coached together. Kirk Ferentz, who's currently still the head coach and a mentor of mine. Love the dude. He's still coach at the University of Iowa, but they're really close friends. And so Bill kind of took me under his wing, and he, I mean, he was just asking me questions. I was thinking I'm being released, and said he's wanting to, know how I'm doing mentally, and if it's how's your kid doing? Because my son was down there, my wife was down there, and it was a complete different organization. It was the most family-oriented organization led by like the guys like Mike Vrabel, who's now the head coach there, Teddy Bruschi, Rodney Harrison, Willie McGinnis. Like these guys were just, it was a different dynamics compared to where I was in Arizona and other places, more similar to Denver, but this was most family oriented place. And at that time, Tom Brady was, he already was a Super Bowl champion, I think the previous year, end up winning the Super Bowl the year I was there. And I mean, just the most competitive dude. And the crazy thing is like I'm not gonna name quarterbacks, but I asked some quarterbacks from Denver Broncos, and hey, you want to run or can I run some extra routes with you? And no, I'm good. And then I asked receivers, like, yeah, he doesn't really deal with the younger guys. I mean, Brady literally said, hey, do you want to run some extra routes? Yes. I'm always that guy. And I asked him, stay after practice. I would literally do whatever because as good as he was already, he was just always working and very super uber competitive. I'm very competitive, and like saw his competitive nature in practice. I'm like, geez, him and Rodney Harrison's story. I got so many stories of that going back and forth. They treat every practice like a game, like truly did. Like I've heard him say that. And I'm a testament where I know I always did that. And he was like on another level, which I just thought was awesome. So to get the opportunity to play with the best coach ever, to play with the best quarterback ever, that was just awesome. Going to get an opportunity to go win a Super Bowl ring. And the coolest part of the whole Super Bowl, skipping the season, going later into that, the best part of that is getting my dad, who was first one, to believe me ever. My mom stayed with my son, with Kyra at the time, and watched him. But my dad, my two brothers, and my wife, they got to go to the game, and as the confetti's falling down, they got to come on the field and they got to experience that situation. And then the week leading up to it, see some of the cool stuff. And then probably the best part is having Snoop Dogg throw a party in our hotel. So it's very small area, Black Eyed Peas and like all these like celebrities and with Snoop throwing the party and performing in a small area where my dad and my brothers and we're up until 6 in the morning, and it was just like it was such a cool experience. So the fact that they got to experience that and my wife got to experience that was probably like the pinnacle of my career, just because all the people that believed in me the most, they got to see the Super Bowl, and then from there getting to fly back and doing like the duck boat thing, like to be in a Super Bowl, parade. You see millions of people. That was really like a surreal experience. Everything happened so quick, but now when I go back, like as I get older, you think like that really was kind of cool. Back then it's like it just happens. Like, all right, what's the next thing? And everything's happened so quick, and but to go back and like think about all that, those cool experiences were awesome. And one of the coolest things is when I got signed by the Patriots. A lot of people don't know this. So when I got signed by the Patriots, um, they could not get a hold of my agent, and they despised my agents. They did not like him. They were doing a deal with somebody else. They were button heads because they couldn't get a hold of them. There's some kind of rule where they then they contacted me directly. So I went up there. So technically I didn't have an agent, even though I did for the last few years. And they said, let's just fire him. And I said, how do I do that? And Scott Pioli, at the time general manager, said, let's, write a letter. So the lady wrote a letter. It was basically, you're fired. Contact my agent because I could not get a hold of him, which was weird. And on the 53 men on that roster that year, I was the only one that did not have an agent. I represent myself, which was nice because going to Super Bowl, I didn't have to pay anybody any agent fees. But Bill Belichick said, as I'm sitting at the table with Bill Belichick and Scott Pioli, Bill said, "Hey, I'll be your agent and you don't even have to pay me." He's like, "How effing great is that?" And Pioli, the manager, same thing. He's like, we'll take care of you. Don't worry. We'll be your agent. You can trust us. And they were my agents through the Super Bowl. Again, 53 men, not one other person represented themselves, but technically, again, Bill Belichick was my agent for free that year.
Cool.
So it was a pretty neat story that people don't know about. But yeah, went through that season, and they end up in that off season. It was, that's when life really kicked in. My son's getting a little bit older, and we bought a house in Arizona again, where he was born in Chandler. We were in Arizona, and I was a free agent trying to figure out what I'm going to do, and got calls from the Vikings and the Rams and the Houston Texans, and at that time, I went to Houston and worked out for them and stuff, and they ended up wanting to offer me or sign me. So I was in my garage in my car. My wife's about to drive me to the airport, and I got a phone call, and it was Bill Belichick and Scott Pioli, and they said, "Hey, we want to sign you back." And that was crazy because I said, I'm leaving right now to go to the Houston Texans, and I'm in the garage with my wife on the phone, and they said, "Hey, well, just switch your ticket. We can have, so and so switch your ticket. Come to New England. We have our ring ceremony at Robert Kraft's house this weekend." And I'm like, "Geez," and so didn't know what to do. They said, "Think about it. Call us back." And I called them back in 10, 15 minutes and said, "I'm going to stick with Houston," because I already felt like that was the situation I was supposed to be in. And I went to Houston at that time, and but just life changing, like how crazy things happen, and getting a phone call, and literally having to decide, like, okay, like 20 minutes, what am I going to do? Speaking New England Patriots, Troy Brown, who was there 14 years at that time, so he was with the Patriots, and when I made the team, he made up a nickname called Jack. He said, "Oh, you're Jackie. You're the Jackie Robinson." I broke the color barrier for the New England Patriots. He was there 14 years and never a white receiver made the team. So now New England is like, geez, there's a Super Bowl. You had Danny Amendola, Chris Hogan, Rob Gronkowski, Edelman. I mean, you had Wes Welker. You had the whole crew. They didn't all play together, but at one point you lined up, you had five white dudes out there, like, oh, that was different. But yeah, I broke that color barrier. They actually on a Jay Leno thing they sent out during the Super Bowl, and Troy Brown said, "This is Jackie Robinson, New England Patriots." And I don't know how many people understood that, but that was kind of a fun story. But yeah, so I ended up going to Houston, and but that was a life changing, real quick situation. And talk about my wife being from a super small town in Iowa. No one really left the state, and all of a sudden she's dragged. She goes to Denver, leaves Iowa, goes to Denver, and gets in a car, drives to Seattle, 10 minutes, leaves Seattle because, Cardinals picked me up. She's like, now what? So then has to close out the apartment in Seattle, and then be in Arizona, have a kid, like, what is going on now? I'm going to Houston. So people don't realize how difficult, as difficult as I had it, man, she had it probably twice as bad, just trying to
Yeah.
figure out things.
The behind the scenes stuff that most people don't see.
People don't understand. It's interesting.
That's crazy. So question on all this is you obviously had more of a career after the Patriots, right? And a lot of more adversity and all that. And we don't have to get into all that, but winning the Super Bowl and all that, would you change anything of your entire journey at all if it meant you didn't win that Super Bowl? Or was the Super Bowl something that made it like, you know what? I went through hell. It was crazy, but this is worth it. Like I've run like this is what it was all for.
Yeah, I mean that's the pinnacle of that sport. To earn a Super Bowl ring, it's something that can never be taken away from me. Um, with all of those, yeah, the trials and tribulations and leading up to actually receiving the big box and opening the thing, and it's just so you can't wear the thing. It's so gaudy and big, and for 20 plus years, I mean, that was a or for not 20, but for a super long time, over a decade, that was the biggest Super Bowl ring in the history, most diamonds, all this stuff, and it is very big and cool, but it means I've had people say, "Oh, what is that worth?" And it's priceless. I mean, the thing is incredible, and it just shows like all those setbacks and from the breaks and just walking into this line to go eat with these people and having to share lockers and all the things, not getting drafted so late and then being able to receive a ring is like, okay, it's all worth it. And it kind of made my career altogether awesome, even though my very last play to end my career was my eighth season and caught a ball, helmet popped off and got hit in the head and I broke my neck and that was it. And with a broken neck, I still tried to come back and want to, play and the NFL, the basis said no, the way my neck fused together. And I look back, I'm like, okay, at least that happened year 8 and not year 1.
Yeah.
At least I was able to get an opportunity to create so many cool experiences and as hard as it was to go from state to state and city to team and all stuff, I don't think I would have changed that at all because I got to see, you know, last year being in Cleveland,
Mhm.
um, that's where the last one I was in Cleveland when my last son Braylon was born and flying back from Cleveland, having the baby and going right back to Cleveland, like all these, we picked all 3 of our kids' dates of, my wife was a warrior where it's like, okay, we're going to pick the date, have her induced and have the baby so then I can go. Literally, that's kind of what it was. And so like all those really crazy, you know, cool experiences, it kind of all is put together in that one Super Bowl ring. And it does mean, it means a lot. It means a lot to me. And just to show all the stuff that are not just me, but my whole family and I kind of been through.
That's awesome.
Uh,
All right, I got two more questions for you before we wrap up. So now being retired and you've got your kids and your kids are heck of athletes too. I mean, how hard is it for you now? Is it hard for you to watching them and just like, man, like watching Kyler up at BYU now and being like, oh, I missed that? Or is it more like, man, like when he cuts a certain way, you're just like, oh, please don't, don't, or if he falls a certain way, oh, I hope that didn't do it. Are you more worried? Are you more like pumped up, like let's go with your kids? Or how would you describe yourself like watching your kids, training with your kids and all that now? What's that like?
all those emotions combined, like let's go. Like the craziness of I'm excited for him, can't wait and everything. To I was never really nervous ever when I played. And my parents said they'd go to games to just watch me. And I always be nervous, like something landing the wrong way or whatever. And that's how I am with all 3 of the kids. And there's so much excitement, so much enjoyment, and then so much nervousness to watch all of them. And my daughter was an Aaliyah, elite athlete, played soccer whole life, and she's aggressive and tough. And see her knock people over, and she went to go play college soccer, and now she's taking pictures, and so just so proud of them. But like just the nervousness and exciting. Okay, what's next? What's going to happen? watching my older son at University of Oregon for 4 years, and then going to and having some trials and tribulations,
Yeah.
having some surgeries and stuff, and that's football, that's life. But now seeing him at BYU, and he graduated. He graduated, and it's kind of cool. His diploma says graduate with honors. So he graduated with honors from University of Oregon, and now at BYU, and getting a great opportunity, staying healthy, and it's all somehow it's a blessing in disguise where one thing led to another. And I think it's going to be an exceptional, awesome year for him. He's enjoying it, and then with my youngest son playing, he's a junior, has one more year, his multiple D1 offers, and going to watch his path, Braylon, and seeing what the one thing with all three of them. I said Braylon, and right away I think hard worker. All three of them are exceptional hard workers, and that's what I'm most proud of. They're, you know, they do good things on the field, and they're good kids. Like my BYU this past weekend, everybody said the same thing. They said the same thing at Oregon. Your son is such a good guy, good kid. Everybody so nice and works hard, and same thing with my daughter and Braylon, and that's what I'm most proud of, and my wife and I are most proud of the kids that I guess we did a decent job raising them, because I think being a parent is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. It's a lot harder than training camp and everything because you can't control everything, and you're just nervous, and you just want the best for everything, and everything's not always going to be work out the
Yeah.
best, just like in my career, and ups and downs, and same thing with them. And you just hope and pray that everything's gonna to work out. So that's been definitely most challenging for my wife and I, just seeing this, and grandparents, same thing. They always wonder, hey, how are the kids doing? And yeah, but yeah, just seeing them grow, uh physically grow, because my son is 6'6.5", and we moved to Arizona. They're like the sun just made them everybody grow. My youngest one is taller than me, and just seeing them grow mentally, physically, spiritually, it's pretty cool. And seeing the work ethic, and just hoping everything's going to work out for the best for them. So yeah, it's been great, and I like that's why I stay in shape. That's why I go to hydro, the hydro lab, and just to stay in shape, and just, you know, I want to be able to compete with them. I
Mhm.
want to be able to just always walk up and down the stairs. I had some surgeries in my knee, and I want to be able to walk up and down those stairs at the stadiums to make sure that I'm watching them and being there, and being able to travel and doing all the stuff, because I want to be part of all of their, I want part of their journeys, and yeah, and that's kind of what drives me. The kids drive me on a daily basis, just to, you know, try to feel good. Just so I can be there for them in all aspects of life.
That's awesome. Yeah, Ann and I were just talking last night and saying, and being a parent's probably the hardest thing we've ever done. And so I second that. But I also would agree with you. I, I think all of your kids are exceptional kids. I've had the opportunity to meet all of them, train with some of them, and then just, Leah took our family pictures. Amazing kids, hardworking kids. And you and Lisa did a great job with those three.
Thank you.
So last question for you. So title of the podcast, Unstuck, right? Everyone, and you mentioned a ton of but times in your life when you felt stuck, and where you could have gone a different direction, you chose to do something else. And people could be stuck financially, they could be stuck spiritually, physically, emotionally. You can be stuck in all kinds of different aspects of your life. But what's one thing you would tell someone if someone said, "Hey, Kevin, I just feel stuck, and I don't know what to do anymore. I just want to give up." What would you tell that person?
Well, I'd say quitters are dummies. That's what my grandpa would say. As far as being unstuck, and you start financially, spiritually, physically, mentally, I've been all those, and I think most people have at some point. And I would just tell them, sounds cliche, but just keep going and don't quit, persevere. But I mean, honestly, just kind of take one day at a time, one step at a time, and just don't stop. And that's something what I've done. I've seen that, even though I don't always express those exact words to my kids. I've seen all three of the kids and my wife at at times through our life. You keep going, and you take one day at a time. You try to get better, and eventually that you're going to get unstuck. And that's a lot of stuff you can control. We spend so much time worrying about, which I do too, worrying about things that don't matter. And I think it's something that my wife's really good at, a lot better than I am about that. But stop worrying about things that aren't even something to be worried about. 90 some percent of the stuff you worry about don't even have nothing to do with you, and aren't even become true. So a lot of those things, just get out of your own head and just keep taking one day at a time, one step at a time, not quitting, and just keep going. And whether it's a weight journey, like, oh, well, you can't lose 100 pounds overnight
Mhm.
or in a week or in a month. This is taking, it's building. We had a saying in University of Iowa called break the rock. You cannot take a sledgehammer and just break a rock in half. It's not what you do. You take a sledgehammer or a chip or whatever and just chip away, one chip at a time. And eventually, over time, those chips will eventually break that rock.
Mhm.
And that was kind of our philosophy. And it's philosophy that I think about all the time. I just had knee surgery in June, had to redo my knee surgery again in December. And going to the lab every day. I couldn't go and run. I literally was on the little scooter thing, scootering from one back to one place to the next, and then getting in the water treadmill to the hydro air treadmill, air treadmill to a regular treadmill. I couldn't run in one day
Mhm.
or a week or a month. It was something that, again, just chipping away on that rock a little bit at a time, and just not quitting, not giving up, because those days suck. Every day's like, okay, it's not even better than yesterday, even though, again, it's chipping away. And that's what I would tell people, just keep going. Don't give up, don't quit, persevere. But again, keep going, because you're going to end up being unstuck.
Awesome. Love that advice. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Um, Also, they didn't ask me, Brett didn't ask me, but I'm personally going to give one of my great experiences. Um, the reason why we even met is because I started going to the hydro air treadmill lab, and it has been a complete life changer for me. I was struggling, going through had elbow surgery and a lot of different things. And I was looking for a place, and I tell my wife and tell people it's like the Disneyland for me, going to the treadmill lab. I absolutely love it. It's a great family. The whole Peterson family became like extended family to me. Kevin, Bryce, Brett, Savannah, it just great people. So I would highly suggest, if you're watching this, or if you're looking to get in shape, you're looking to just be in a great environment, do red light therapy, which is incredible for your body. Hot and cold hydrotherapy, jump in the crowd therapy. It's something that I literally do every day that I'm in town, unless I'm visiting my kids or something, or going to BYU or Oregon, whatever it may be. I'm in there every single day, because physically and mentally, it has been 100% game changer for me. And I absolutely love the place. And I would highly recommend, if you're someone looking to get in shape or stay in shape, or rehab or prehab, or just get the benefits of red light and cryotherapy and underwater treadmill and some of the best, literally the best equipment in the entire world, is all in a very small facility, and it's just a great environment. So I would 100% come recommend checking this place out, because it truly is no other place better than this. And if you're stuck, come to Hydro Lab, get unstuck with anything part of your life, and I'm telling you, it is the best place you can be at. They didn't ask me to say it, but I'm telling you this. So come join me.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah.
If you guys enjoyed this episode, feel free to share it. I appreciate it if you guys would share it. And if it resonated with you, we've got some other episodes that you can listen to as well. Kevin posts some good stuff on his Instagram feed. You give him a follow and follow his kids as they're beginning their collegiate careers. Or in Kyler's case, he's in the middle of it right now, but super excited to watch him and Braylon continue. And then Aaliyah, if you guys ever need any pictures or anything, Aaliyah does great photography work as well. All right, guys, thanks for joining us today. And remember that progress begins with one step, and we'll see you next time.